And we are back with the fifth segment of the GSMC basketball podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fifth segment, we are going to be continuing on with the list of NBA free agents that that are going to be or the top free agents going into the summer. Pardon me for my horrible English right there. So we left off with Malik Monk, so now we will go ahead and move on to the next player, which is KCP. And I feel like getting KCP now, he has a player option, but KCP, he needs to accept his player option if the Nuggets they have a chance of winning another NBA championship. Now, they messed up against the Timberwolves this year. However, they still have the same roster that they do have going into the next season and the same championship roster. So if KCP just accepts his player option, they can easily try and run it back one more time and hopefully not lose earlier in the postseason than they did the previous year. But, that's up to KCP and we'll see. Next player on this list, I'm trying to go through this list as quickly as possible. And we are coming up like some of the mediocre players, I guess you could say. So it's like not really. Again, it's a very, very big class of free agent players, and it's like not everyone is a top player in the league, unfortunate as it is. This is just my opinion. So, next is D'Lo. He played for the Lakers. He did not have a very good. He did not have a very good season in the postseason. I should say he did not have a very good postseason, but he did play really well in the regular season. And that postseason performance, it was just one or 4-5 bad games. Like it was a sample size of 5 games, and it wasn't like he played really well in those 5 games. And it's like he's making $17.3 million, and he does have a player option. I have a feeling he's going to accept his player option, even though the Lakers might not want him on the team after selling like he did. I mean, like he was just horrible in the playoffs. It was bad, and I don't even want to talk about him anymore. Let's move on to the next guy. And next up is Miles Bridges. I don't want to talk about him. Next is Tobias Harris. Now, I will definitely talk about Tobias Harris. Now, he is under fire under the Sixers media. He is definitely one of the scapegoats for the loss between the Knicks and the Sixers. Tobias Harris was historically bad in the postseason, and it was bad. It was just atrocious. Like he was a non-factor in several games in the postseason, and it was almost as if like he wasn't there, and it was like he just didn't help the team like at all. I'm just pulling up his game log right now, but like I don't remember him contributing anything in the postseason, and I believe he dropped 0 points in an elimination game. Let me just go ahead and make sure. Yep, he ended the game 0 for 2 in an elimination game in between the Knicks, and he had 7 points in game 1 and 8 points in game 3. And the most points he scored was 19 points. Now, this is definitely like a player that the Sixers don't want to be spending so much money on. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent going into the next season, and I think the team should just I think the Sixers should just let him walk. Like after that terrible performance, and they need to let him walk. Otherwise, I don't really think they're going to have enough money to be able to convince Paul George to join the Sixers. Which brings up the next player on this list that's most likely going to also be let off by the Sixers is Buddy Hield. Like the Sixers, they aren't going to pursue him in free agency, I don't think. If they have a chance, if Paul George does end up, declining to go with the Clippers. Now, Buddy Hield, he's known as a 3-point shooter, but he shot 38% from 3, not bad, averaged 12 points, but no players drained more threes than Hield over the previous 5 um, seasons, and he was 15th in the association's last season with 219 triples. So again, another just a great role player that is coming in for the Sixers. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Sixers end up letting him go in the hopes of being able to get Paul George. Again, that is the big dream, to have a big three in the Eastern Conference to be able to compete against the Big C. Oh, well, that was horrible, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. Now, Klay Thompson, he is most likely going to test the free agent market. I've talked about him several times on this podcast, and being under contract for $43.2 million and expecting to test the free agency market while looking for similar compensation is going to be a very hard task, especially with the numbers that he is averaging. That is all I really need to say. If you guys want to really listen to what I have to say about Klay Thompson, you can go ahead and watch some of the other podcasts about Klay Thompson or the individual episodes I do have about him. Now, next is Tyus Jones. Now, he was one of the only bright spots in my opinion for the Wizards. Now, it really is unfortunate that the Wizards, they're paying Jordan Poole all that money, and Jordan Poole isn't really as impactful as I feel like as this player. There is a chance that the Wizards end up giving him a lot more money because he is an unrestricted free agent going into the next season. But making more than Jordan Poole or making as much, I don't think so. I wouldn't be surprised. I would leave, honestly. I would suggest leaving and maybe joining a team like the Spurs, so that way you can play with Victor Wembanyama, something like that. Definitely a better option than playing with Jordan Poole. But next is Jonas Valanciunas. Now, he ranks 6th in total rebounds and 7th in double-doubles since being acquired from the Grizzlies in 2021. And he has, his limitations as a defender, but he's developed a great three-point shot. He's shooting 30% from three. As a center, that's pretty good. And he's been, a pretty good presence for the Pelicans towards the middle. Now, the Pelicans, they are kind of looking for a rim protector, so I'm not entirely sure how Jonas's contract is going to hold up. He's making $15.4 million this year, but we'll go ahead and we'll see how much, whether or not they decide, to take the team in a different direction than taking the team in the direction of, having the what's it called? The option of having a rim protector as opposed to having him. But we'll go ahead and we'll see what they do. Coming in from the sports, TJ says Jones deserves better than the Wizards. Love the idea of him on the Spurs. Wemby needs a real point guard. Thank you for agreeing with that. I feel like that's sort of in his budget, and definitely also in the Spurs budget, because it's really difficult to convince. It would be really difficult to convince a big time free agent to be able to, especially when there aren't really that many big time free agents, if you really think about it, going into this offseason, that are young enough and in a good enough spot to compete with Wemby. So, but next on this list is Isaiah Hartenstein, and this is one that is it's going to hurt a lot of New York fans because he does a lot of the grit and he does a lot of the things that a lot of players don't really want to do. And, he brings that value to the team. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And, again, OKC seems to be the landing spot for a player like this. And it seems like, they're going to try and pursue him. Another player that gets known for doing all of the dirty work is Bruce Brown, former Nets legend. Love the guy, great player, fantastic rebounder, fantastic offensive mind. He won the NBA championship with the Denver Nuggets. He was a very important piece to that puzzle, a 3-and-D player. He's making $22 million, however, which is a lot. That is a lot of money coming in from Bruce Brown. And he does this is he's under a team option, which is really rare, and I believe he's the first player on the list that I've mentioned that is on a team option. And he's reportedly, like, the franchise is reportedly set to trade him around the draft after picking up his $23 million in salary for 2024 and the 2025 season. The club has until June 29 to officially exercise the option, and that seems to be, like, the next we'll figure out exactly where he's going to be traded, but that seems to be the next step for him. Next is Royce O'Neal. Now, I mentioned him before in the previous podcast, saying that he would be a pretty good option to pair up with Kyrie and Luka Doncic, seeing as how the Mavericks, they're still in need of they, if they want to increase their role player option, and if they want to, like, maybe get a better role player, maybe Royce O'Neal would be the pick, because they don't need star players. They need better role players now. So that's an option. He's making only $9.5 million, and his averages aren't really all that, but, he is a 3-and-D defender, so I don't really expect your averages to be all that. Next is the one and only light skin himself, Kelly Oubre. He is, a fan favorite for the ladies, and seriously, like, look at the demographics, and, I mean, look at his face. But pause. Aside from that, he's played, like, he's on a minimum deal with only $2 million. I don't know what teams, like, they might pick him up, and they I don't know what it is. It's weird. He's been, like, jumping from team to team, and he's primarily a defensive wing, and he's very efficient around the basket. So it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if people would take that for $2 million. I mean, $2 million and averaging 15 points per game is pretty impressive, I will say. But then again, there is the inefficiencies that come with that. So next on this list, we are running down, like, through this list. We have Gary Trent, and oh my god, I completely forgot to put another player, and the other player that I forgot to put was Obi Toppin. He's also going to be a free agent coming into the next season, and he's going to be a restricted free agent, however, so I really feel like the Pacers are going to want to re-sign him again. So an unrestricted free agent is Gary Trent Jr. He is going to he has a slightly diminished role with the Raptors in the last few seasons, despite the fact that he's making $18.6 million. And he's a good defender. He's a pretty good shooter as well, shooting 39% from 3. So he's an unrestricted free agent. Wouldn't be surprised if any championship team would want to get him on the roster. Next on this list, we are reaching the very end, is Markelle Fultz. Now, yes, I have Markelle Fultz over Russell Westbrook. And he's had his knee injuries, obviously, and he's, in 158 contests over the last 4 years, he's averaged 12 points, 5 assists. He's also much, much younger, which is the big reason why I put him over Westbrook. And not only that, Westbrook is not after Markelle Fultz either. It is Luke Kennard. Now, I feel like Luke Kennard, he brings a lot more value to the team than he also has the team option, so we'll go ahead and see exactly what they do. But he shoots 45% from the three-point line, which is really where his value comes from. He's a great three-point shooter, and he's a great wing player, as he enters free agency dependent on what the Grizzlies do in the draft. So we'll go ahead and see exactly, like, what will happen and what is expected to happen going into free agency and going into the draft and everything of that nature. There are other players that I haven't mentioned before. There was also Kyle Lowry, who is also an unrestricted free agent. There are also some there are also some other players that are also on different deals that I didn't bother mentioning, like PJ Tucker. He does have that player option. Also Nick Batum, Talon Horton-Tucker, James Wiseman. Let me see who else on the list. Jeff Green, Daniel Tice, Mason Plumlee, Westbrook, Kevin Love, all of these players, they all have a player option. And I didn't really bother Andre Drummond. I didn't really bother, including them because I didn't feel like they belonged on a list that was, full of, some of the best players. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. If if you feel like I missed out on some of these free agents, if there were some other sleeper picks that I may have missed out on, and I'll go ahead and look at them. But with that out of the way, we are out of time for all of the segments and the 5th segment of the show. So that is it for the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Really helps your show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, really helps the show. Link is GSMCPodcast.net. That is all I have for you in this in this 5th and final segment. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to